In the Netherlands, public hearings on the legal consequences of Israel's policies and practices against Palestine began at the International Court of Justice. In Cuba, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in Havana as part of a regional tour to deepen bilateral relations. And in the United Kingdom, human rights organizations warned about the risk of serious human rights violations if Julian Assange is extradited to the United States. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Public hearings on the legal consequences of Israel's policies and practices against Palestine have already begun at the International Court of Justice at The Hague in the Netherlands. These sessions are framed in the request of General Assembly of the United Nations to obtain an advisory opinion from this court on the effects of the Israeli occupation for 75 years. During these sessions, which extend from today until February 26, the court will hear reports from 52 countries, an unprecedented number in the history of this high court. The African Union, the Islamic Cooperation Organization, and the League of Arab States will also present statements. And Israel has allowed, after several weeks, the most fluid entry of humanitarian aid to Gaza. However, the danger is still imminent, not only for the residents, but also for the workers of the UN, who are exposed when distributing the humanitarian aid as Israel continues to bomb indiscriminately. Our correspondent brings us the details.
Finally, Israel will allow a number of flower humanitarian aid to be allowed into northern Gaza. However, it is very dangerous now for Palestinians to go and wait for the humanitarian aid trucks at the Al-Rashid Street or Salah ad-Din Street, which are the northern Gaza gate to the whole world. Why it is so dangerous? Because in many occasions the Israeli warplanes and the Israeli tanks actually targeted the people who were waiting for the aid. For example, just yesterday, one Palestinian was killed and a number were injured in an Israeli attack that targeted people who were waiting for humanitarian aid. So it is not only about the very little aid that is being allowed to Gaza, it is also about how dangerous it is for the Palestinians to wait and to receive that aid, and also how dangerous it is for the UN workers and the humanitarian aid organization workers to move around and distribute the aid on the Palestinians here in Gaza. Talking about the latest on the ground, and there were a number of Israeli airstrikes in northern Gaza, in middle Gaza, in southern Gaza, overnight and this early hours. The Israeli forces pounded Gaza from its north to its south with a number of airstrikes and shells. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 127 Palestinians were killed, and this brings up the Palestinian death toll here in Gaza since the 7th of October up to 28,987 people. Palestinians here on the ground are living with very little hope that maybe in the near future there would be a truce, a humanitarian truce before the month of Ramadan that could bring peace to the ground here in Gaza. Nur Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
Palestine-Israeli occupation warplanes targeted citizens' homes in Deir al-Balah and al-Sawaira in central Gaza and Han Yunis in the south, killing dozens of Palestinian civilians. Local sources said that the occupation warplanes bombed the home of al-Barak family in the city of Deir al-Balah, killing 7 citizens, including 3 children. 5 Palestinians were killed and others injured after the occupation forces targeted a group of citizens near the Kuwait roundabout south of Gaza City. In the south, the Israeli warplanes launched raids west of the city of Han Yunis, where 2 people were killed and others injured. In a preliminary toll, the ongoing Israeli aggression on Gaza since October 7th has resulted in 28,987 fatalities, with 68,677 others injured. The Palestinian Prisoners Affairs Commission denounces the increase in torture and confinement practices implemented by Israel's prison service. Head of the institution, Kadura Fares, rejected the isolation imposed on imprisoned Palestinian leaders in the last few months. Over 7,000 Palestinian men and women have been arrested only in the occupied West Bank. In addition, several thousands have been apprehended in the Gaza Strip, for a total of 12,000 prisoners, including hundreds of children. These actions carried out by Israeli occupation forces are in violation of all international treaties and conventions. Journalists in Gaza are victims of violent Israeli actions to prevent them from showing to the world the reality of genocide. Qatar TV news channel Al Jazeera reporter Saleh Ismail Khalil Mohammed tells us his story.
I had put on my best and we were getting ready to go to the European hospital in Gaza. We had walked some 300 meters to the point where I was to meet with Ahmed when we were hit. As Ahmed was telling how he almost died in the most recent attack, an F-16 airplane launched a missile on us.
The Al Jazeera reporter Salah Ismail Khalil Mohammed also tells us how he lost one of his limbs and how his colleague was wounded as a result of an Israeli shell.
And then it happened. I lost one leg and got shrapnel on my other leg. My colleague and cameraman Ahmad was hit by shrapnel in his head. I pray to God he gets well and that he may heal him. That's what happened. Thank God now I feel a little better, with God Almighty's favor. That's all I can tell you.
In Japan, many citizens have expressed their support for the Palestinian people and have called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Demonstrators gathered in several cities carrying Palestinian flags and banners with slogans against Israel, demanding an end to the genocide of the Palestinian people. They also denounced lack of humanitarian aid to provide for the victims. Demonstration organizers say they will continue to rally until they succeed in halting the Israeli aggression. Also in Milan, Italy, hundreds of citizens joined worldwide demonstrations in solidarity of the Palestinian people in the face of the relentless Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators described the Israeli military actions as a genocide due to Tel Aviv's human rights violations. Citizens carried signs with slogans like "Freedom for Palestine" and "Stop war crimes against civilians." Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, at least 12 people were arrested by police officers during pro-Palestinian demonstrations. More than 250,000 people took to the streets to condemn the Israeli aggression and call for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. In Chile, the number of people killed as a result of the forest fires in the Valparaiso region rose to 133. Chile's Forensic Medical Service informed that up to now, 108 of the fatal victims of the disaster have been identified. However, work continues in order to provide a prompt response to those affected by the tragedy. It is expected that this figure will be the final one once the debris removal work is concluded. Meanwhile, the municipality of Viña del Mar reported that about 60% of the affected area has been cleared, although work continues. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. A report reveals in the United States every 96 minutes a person dies in a work-related accident. According to data from Labor Statistics Bureau, the results of the fatal occupational injury census showed an increase of over 5% in the number of fatal occupational injuries. Statistics revealed that the highest proportion of casualties were of Latinos, agricultural, fishing, and forestry workers. However, transportation incidents are the most common causes, facts reflecting the state's lack of investment in workers' social security. In Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum officially registers as candidate for the country's presidency. The left citizen leader officialized her enrollment and campaign as a candidate of the ruling party to run for Mexico's presidency on June 2nd. Among her proposals, Sheinbaum urges the general principles of the government she will lead with honesty, without divisions, corruption, besides guaranteeing the political, social, and sexual freedoms of expression. Finally, the candidate affirmed that the fourth transformation will have a woman's face and assured that she will honor the strong commitment of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's government. In Panama, inflation keeps on the rise. There has been a steady increase in the price of retail goods, utilities, and services. According to the Panamanian National Institute of Statistics and Census, the higher price increases occur in electricity, transportation, housing, water, and gas. In fact, the Consumer Price Index showed that those utilities experienced a 1.7% increase in the month of January alone. In Haiti, human rights organizations describe as catastrophic the children's situation and warn that millions of kids are directly impacted by the economic, political, and social crisis affecting the country. The San Timon Foundation regretted the situation of this sector of society in the midst of increasing food and health conditions. According to local media, in 2023, an estimated 207,000 children were living in domestic service in Haiti, and 113,000 were displaced due to gang violence, and 500 were unaccompanied repatriated at the Haitian-Dominican border. In view of the situation, the United Nations Children's Fund called on the authorities to guarantee the safety of children in Haiti, where violence continues to be rampant. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in Havana, the capital of Cuba, as part of a regional tour that will take him to several Latin American countries. According to the agenda shared by the offices of both foreign ministries, he will hold meetings with President Miguel Díaz-Canel and his counterpart Bruno Rodriguez. The memorandum from the Russian Foreign Ministry states that a wide range of current issues on the world and regional agenda, as well as various aspects of bilateral cooperation, including commercial, economic, and cultural matters, will be discussed. After his visit to Havana, the head of the Russian diplomacy will travel to Venezuela and later to Brazil. In the framework of the 32nd edition of the International Book Fair in Havana, the government of Cuba and Brazil signed an agreement that will allow the exchange of information and experiences of library materials. The agreement consists in a memorandum of understanding between the National Library Foundation of Brazil and the National Library of Cuba, which provides for the exchange of information and experiences, visits, library materials, as well as the realization of several joint actions. The document also provides for the schedule of concrete follow-up actions for cooperation between the two institutions and was signed by FPN President Marco Lucchesi on the Brazilian side, who donated books to the José Martí National Library for the occasion, and by his counterpart Omar Palino Cedre on the Cuban side.
Indudablemente, porque para nosotros Cuba.
For us, Cuba was and still is a second homeland, the homeland that has taught us many important things, not only for Brazil, but for Latin America. You were ahead in many places, in many reasons, concepts of humanity, of open policies towards solidarity among peoples, which counts because we are on the same planet. Well, I believe that now we have to retake the threats that were, I don't say ignored, not even lost, but threats that were not well done for reasons that we all know. That is to say, now we have to think of a political agenda full of humanism and culture. I believe that in this way we will be able to achieve justice and peace, and above all, solidarity among the peoples, because Cuba is facing many very important challenges, and we are very close to all the concerns, because the destiny of Cuba and the Cuban people is also the destiny of Latin America.
We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. This is a decisive way for Australian activist Julian Assange. Human rights organizations are warning about the risk of serious human rights violations if he is extradited to the United States. The extradition of the WikiLeaks founder will be equally catastrophic for his welfare and also for the global community awareness, so say civil organizations, politicians, and representatives from different countries. If he is extradited, they warn there will be a profound intimidating effect on the media freedom around the world and the right of millions of people to be informed. This Tuesday, rounds of worldwide actions begin. In addition to mobilizations, there will be urgent legal actions before international courts due to the clear threat against Assange's integrity. In Russia, the detonation of Ukrainian cluster munitions left at least 6 people injured in Donetsk territory. On Sunday, authorities in Donetsk region confirmed that several civilians, including 3 children, were injured after the detonation of cluster munitions in different parts of the territory. According to a regional representative, after the incident, the wounded were taken to medical centers where they received the necessary medical attention. The Convention on Cluster Munitions passed in 2008 prohibits the use of this type of weapon, given that 98% of those killed by this weapon are civilians, mainly children who play with the bombs that failed to detonate. African Union leaders condemned Israel's offensive against the Gaza Strip and called for its immediate end. During his speech at the summit held in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, the president of the international organization, Moussa Faki, expressed his support and solidarity with the people of Palestine, while condemning the Israeli attacks against the Gaza Strip, which he described as the most flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. For his part, the head of state of the Comoro Islands and outgoing president of the African Union, Assaliou Samani, praised the case brought by South Africa against Israel before the International Court of Justice. In this regard, he called on the international community not to ignore the disastrous consequences of the Israeli genocide and to join efforts to put an immediate end to it. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva proposed an alliance with African countries to fight deforestation. During a speech at the 37th African Union Summit, the Brazilian president said that caring for the planet's health is a priority, while stressing the duty to protect the world's 2 largest tropical forests, the Amazon and the Congo. In this sense, President Lula da Silva proposed working on joint initiative for the protection of tropical forests, including a satellite network to monitor deforestation and the recovery of degraded areas. This after considering that the international instruments that currently exist are insufficient to effectively protect these areas, their biodiversity, and the people who live in, care for, and depend on these biomes.
I come to reaffirm the partnership and bond between our country and our people and this broader continent. The African struggle has much in common with the challenges facing Brazil. We have to chart our own paths in the emerging international order. We need to create a new world order capable of facing the challenges of our time.
The Chinese government increases security operations in Taiwan Strait following an incident with a fishing boat in which 2 Chinese nationals were killed. The Coast Guard of the Asian giant confirmed that they will reinforce the patrol operations in the South China Sea to preserve operational order and protect fishermen's lives and properties. This is after a boat with 4 fishermen overturned on Thursday, February 15th, when it was chased by Taiwan island authorities, resulting in the death of 2 Chinese nationals. In this regard, authorities of the Asian giant stressed that the incident caused widespread indignation on both sides of Taiwan Strait, since those waters are traditionally used by fishermen from both mainland China and the Chinese island of Taiwan. And on Sunday, conservationists around the globe observed World Whale Day. This day was said to raise awareness about the threat of extinction facing whales, and is sprung from an initiative by Greg Kaufman, founder of the Pacific Whale Foundation, in 1980 in Maui, Hawaii. Whales are mammals family of cetaceans which inhabit the cold waters of the Arctic and tropical regions. They are the largest mammals on the planet, and it has been estimated that their life on this planet dates back some 55 million years. However, illegal fishing practices and sport hunting have pushed them to the brink of extinction. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. With TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
in a